Cool. Welcome back to the show or the podcast, whatever we're calling this at the moment. I'm your host for today, Jack Merriman, and I'm joined by Commercial Director here at Bridge, Max Devenish.
Hi.
Today we're talking about coffee pricing as we see it.
Yep.
So we're a roastery. So we import coffees directly from trade, from importers as well, like DR Wakefield, amongst a number of others. So yeah, we're going to talk about what we've kind of seen over the last few years in terms of global coffee pricing, how it's affecting what we're doing on a day-to-day in the coffees that we're buying, and how it's affecting our customers as well. So what kind of coffees they'll be buying, what's best suited for different industries, how a rising price is going to affect everyone as well, what we can do to combat that as well.
Yeah, well, that's, excuse me, it's a good start.
Yeah, go for it. Voice crack there as well. Here we go.
Absolutely. It's a very emotional subject.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is, actually, because it is a strange time to be in the coffee industry from a pricing perspective. Mm-hmm. And, well, I've been doing this in one way, shape or form for 20 years nearly.
Yep.
And it's never been stranger,
Okay.
I'd suggest. So coffee over the last year, well, I mean, the pandemic was a thing, and
Sure.
that had some crazy impacts on coffee pricing, and we can talk about that. But if even if we just talk since the pandemic, since the last 12 months, it's just steadily the pricing has just been going up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
And I'm talking Arabica and Robusta, and you kind of almost need to, while they're closely linked, you need to view them somewhat separately as well.
Okay.
The biggest crisis at the moment is Robusta, which, for those that don't know, is the more basic variety of coffee that is drunk.
Yep.
Often used in darker roasted Italian style coffees, give you a big sort of caffeine hit, and
Typically the cheaper of the coffee as well.
Yeah. I mean, in some countries, Brazil, for example, it grows as a weed. It's much easier to grow.
Yeah.
It grows. Yeah, it's much easier to grow. So
More robust.
Yeah, exactly.
Hence the name.
Yeah, and by itself, it's not a great product at all. But it is used in some countries, well, all countries actually, to be paired with an Arabica to give you like an Italian style espresso. So a sort of real punchy, sort of brings bitterness to your sort of traditional espresso, basically.
And part of that was price focused as well. Like Robusta was
exactly.
typically cheaper.
Absolutely. So for years, it's been the cheapest drinkable coffee crop by a long stretch, but substantially so. That, for the first time in my memory, is no longer the case, which is bizarre.
Interesting.
Quite frankly. Yeah. There's lots of reasons behind that. So talking about the UK anyway, most of the Robusta that comes into the UK is from India or Vietnam or Uganda. That's probably the three biggest countries. And getting product from that part of the world at the moment is just extremely difficult.
Okay.
For a multitude of reasons. Vietnam had a really bad crop, which meant that put pressure on India. So there was a supply issue. Yeah. But then with the current political volatility there is in the world at the moment, particularly around the sort of the Houthi rebel Red Sea area, like product hasn't been getting to the UK through the Red Sea routes, having to come right around the bottom of Africa, which takes significantly longer, but also costs significantly more.
Yeah.
So right now, there's certain Robustas we literally cannot get hold of. It's not just that it's expensive. I mean, it's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Like really, it's more expensive than some really decent quality Arabicas, which is nuts, quite frankly. But it's not just that. You literally cannot get hold of it. There's some products that we've had, staple products we've had in stock for years, we literally don't have right now.
And that's because Robusta's not available.
Yeah.
So we've had to swap that in for something else.
Yeah.
Or?
So it's a funny thing because for the customer, it's actually had a good impact though they probably don't know it.
Yeah.
Because we have had to still supply coffee, obviously, to our clients. So where historically, if say for example, and so we do sell coffee that has Robusta in it. We prefer 100% Arabica coffees, and the better quality, the better.
Yeah.
That goes without saying. But there are instances when having a coffee Robusta in it is a good thing. I don't mind
For a
saying
number
that.
of reasons.
Yeah,
Price,
for sure.
taste.
Exactly.
Some people want that.
If someone wants that Italian espresso thing, then you probably want a coffee with a 20% Robusta content or something.
Okay.
As historically it's cheaper. But it just doesn't make sense right now to be doing that. So a lot of coffees that historically have had a Robusta content are currently 100% Arabica. Roasted slightly different to still give you the same sort of vibes as you would expect from a Robusta content coffee. But it's the Robusta just isn't there to be had. So the first thing to do was unfortunately put a price increase in so that we could actually still continue to serve our customers. And that has happened. It's never nice doing a price increase, but sometimes you've just got to. When prices are literally doubling overnight, which is what they've done, and some with Robusta. I mean, I don't exactly want to talk exact prices, but Robusta, the current Robusta prices are, I don't know, 120% of where they were pre-pandemic.
Okay.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
And we tried soaking that cust up for a while.
Yeah, we did, and we did it for as long as we could.
And we still are to a certain extent.
Absolutely. We can't possibly pass all of that on.
Yeah.
And we have to do what we can. But nevertheless, when you're looking at that sort of price increase, there is only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And we feel we've done that, and we've had to pass on a certain amount of price increases. But the other thing to do is to actually look at the blend composition. So like actually bringing Robusta content down and putting Arabica content up, which incidentally is actually going to give you a better cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, but that's.
So let's talk about the cause of the Robusta rise in price then, because prices have been going up across the board.
Yeah.
Not just Robusta and Arabica, but also apples, bananas,
Absolutely.
toothpaste, whatever.
Yeah.
Pack of like Colgate now is like £4 in Tesco sometimes.
Okay.
Crazy.
Wow.
Anyway, what has happened specifically with Robusta and its 3 biggest growing regions? Let's talk a little bit more about that. You sort of mentioned the rebels in. Yeah, tell us more about that.
Well, I mean, I couldn't. I'm not an expert exactly on the subject, but all I know is that the sort of political unrest in that area, sort of around the Red Sea at the moment, is meaning that shipments are either just simply not coming through, or they're significantly delayed. So, and what the problem is that you get when something interrupts international shipping, whatever it is. And again, I do not confess to be an expert on this, but from what from the little experience I've got and what I've been told as well, is that when something interrupts international shipping, even if it's, say, like in our instance, we're talking about Vietnam, India, and East Africa, in essence. Now, if something is interrupted there, that actually has a knock-on impact in other parts of the world in a few months' time.
Yeah.
For example, so everything is going around the world in containers, on container ships in containers. If those containers don't arrive where they're supposed to at the certain time, then they cannot go to their next destination in time either.
Yeah.
So the knock-on impact will just continue going round. So if you've got a problem, even if the problem only lasts for 3 months and then it's over, the impact of that can still be felt 2 years later.
Do you remember when there was the Evergreen ship was stuck in the Suez Canal?
Yeah.
And like the UK has its own problems in Dover, over recent years as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Coffee specifically as well. It's not immune to changes in temperature and weather conditions. Climate change is sort of an issue that is, well, I mean, it's an issue, but in the coffee industry, people are worried about the future of coffee, how much it's going to cost, how much will be available as well.
Yeah, well, that's sorry.
Go for it. No.
Oh, you just sparked a thought there. I was talking to someone who's a farmer or someone who's heavily involved in the coffee industry in Ethiopia recently. And I can't speak for the whole of Ethiopia, but in this particular region, climate change has actually changed the rainy season. In essence, when the rainy season falls, which has basically meant, or it's now coincided with the time when they dry the coffee, which has caused a huge problem because when you're trying to dry coffee outside, you need hot, warm, dry weather.
Yep.
It's now raining, so that's an issue, like a huge issue. So causing all sorts of quality control problems, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. So in instances like that, they're having to really think outside the box and like change their process because of climate change. So going from a natural product to a washed, in essence.
Yeah.
But
growing different varieties,
absolutely, and
growing higher up the hill.
Exactly. If that's
they
possible.
can. There's only so much hill.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many changes that that is a significant impact that is affecting a growing community, and that is literally led by climate change.
Yeah. So as coffee is going to be, let's just forecast that it's going to be more expensive and harder to come by in X amount of years. Have we thought about how that is going to affect us as a business and how we can sort of protect ourselves from that, and also our customers as well?
Well, that's a really good question, and I don't have a succinct answer to it. I wish I did.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball I can look into to see what the future is. But as you say, like, it doesn't appear that politically the world is going to get any easier for the foreseeable future. That definitely has an impact. And then climate change, poor crops. Brazil had a really bad crop. Was it last year, I think?
Right.
Which they had a frost, which they don't get frosts normally.
Okay.
Saw lots of pictures of acres and acres of dead coffee trees. That drives up price. There's so many different things that it can impact. And you're only ever, at best, you're a season away of knowing. So you can only forecast 12 months ahead, really, at best. And even then it's a bit shaky, to be honest. But in terms of how does that impact our customers, I mean, obviously we'll try and smooth it out as much as possible. So we're monitoring the market, talking to growers, talking to importers, talking to the whole supply chain in essence, and just trying to understand what's going on. And yeah, by and large, I do think it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
There has been some really good things happening as well. There's been some countries have had really good crops recently. So it's very easy to be negative about this stuff. And ultimately, when prices go up, you can look at it two ways. I mean, ultimately, the consumer will have to pay the brunt of that extra cost. At some point, the consumer's cup of coffee, the price will increase.
Yeah, there was a big news article recently about the £5 flat white. I think it was on The Guardian.
Okay.
And, when is the £5 flat white coming? Should we be paying £5? And my opinion is absolutely yes, we should be paying £5.
Absolutely.
Like, coffee is this incredible thing when you think about it. It's, the seed of a fruit from the other side of the globe.
I know.
Somehow has ended up in your cup. It's incredible.
It is
and
incredible.
You're paying pennies for it.
Yeah.
Together with the entire supply chain and the baristas and keeping the lights on in the cafe and that kind of stuff.
I've to be honest, I've predicted it for years that we'll get there very quickly.
Yeah.
The £5 for a flat white, and I don't think it will stop there.
No.
I think it will keep going. I know in Australia, for example, $6-7 Australian dollars for a good quality flat white is fairly normal in the big cities, and I think we will get there too. Definitely do. And when you look at what has gone, as you say, when you look at what has gone in to that coffee bean to get it into a drinkable format, like all the people in the whole supply chain, from sort of the farmer's families, those they employ. There's literally hundreds of people involved in the process.
Yeah.
And when you boil it down to a cup of coffee, there's not many pennies to go round when you look at it like that. Yeah. So I'm all for actually increased quality.
Oh yeah.
Make it so people want to pay more.
Yeah.
That's how I view it anyway.
Yeah. So as coffee is getting more expensive and businesses and starting to charge £5 for a flat white, what are some things that they can do to make sure that people are feeling like they're getting their money's worth in the cup?
That's a good question. I think there's several answers to that, but I think ultimately us as a roaster and our customers as cafe owners, etc., we have a responsibility to source responsible product.
Yep.
And if we help our customers serve better quality coffee that has a story that is not just a marketing story. I mean, it is a marketing story, but it's a story that actually is true and resonates with the consumer. People will pay more. I mean, we've seen that. We've seen that time and time again. Actually, it's not just about a mediocre cup of coffee for £2 anymore.
Yeah,
like people will, if they can see the story behind the coffee, they can see like the origin. As the obvious starting place, and they can see maybe the farmer behind it or a good cause that coffee is helping support. They'll think, okay, yeah, I'll pay £5 for that. And then when they actually have that cup, when they drink that coffee, if it's made with love by the barista, then that is where the magic happens, because they'll buy the story for £5.
Yeah,
in essence. Then they'll drink the coffee and think, yeah, that's worth it. I want another one. That's what I mean. Our philosophy for years has been, we help our customers sell the second cup.
Yeah.
And that is when you know you're doing something right, is when your customers keep coming back.
And the price of a flat white is pretty consistent, to be fair, like across different industries. Like you can sit in a main high street, one of those global chains, Starbucks, Cafe Nero, Costa. You'll pay somewhere between £3 and £4 for a standard flat white, something like that. But then you go to an independent coffee shop round the corner, and it's still between £3 and £4.
Yeah.
But the quality, the amount of care that's gone into it as well, is just infinitely higher, and the margins are way lower.
Yeah.
So
this is a really interesting subject, and there's a couple of things there. I mean, I don't want to use the word corporate greed exactly, but I just did. There is, with the big corporates, I mean, they're like, we would have a very good idea what they're paying for that coffee, what it costs them to roast it, etc., and what actual beans it is. Now, so they would absolutely have a much lower cost per cup than the specialty coffee shop around the corner, who's buying a really high quality Colombian or African coffee or something. And that that looks unfair, and to a certain extent it is unfair. The other thing is, though, that high street coffee shop is probably likely to be in a maybe on the high street as opposed to something just slightly off the high street. So their rents are going to be higher. They're going to have more staff. They're going to have more overhead, in essence. So when it boils down to it, you might find that their cost to serve that coffee aren't dissimilar.
Okay.
But it's difficult to say that across the board, because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say that you can't look at it one dimensionally. But what I do think is that specialty coffee in this country is too cheap by the cup.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is driven by cafe owners who really want to serve that good quality product because they're passionate about it and they know how good it is. They know what it does at origin to be able to sell good quality coffee to the UK. And just how much it improves your cup quality.
Yeah.
The challenge they've got is they look at Costa, they look at Starbucks, and they think, oh, they're paying £2.50, £3 for a flat white. If I charge any more, people won't come to me.
Yeah.
I actually don't think that's true, to be honest. I think it's a different market. And interestingly, I had a debate with someone going back a while. Somebody was saying, oh, I love Costa, I hate Starbucks, I love Costa. Like, Costa is the best coffee in the world. And I said to them, would you say McDonald's produced the best burger in the world? They said, well, absolutely not. Well, I said, well, Costa is to coffee what McDonald's is to burgers.
Yeah.
It's just convenient. It's like, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's coffee, but it's not going to blow you away. They wouldn't even tell you it's the best coffee in the world.
No.
So I think if people can start understanding what specialty coffee is, they'll start paying more for it, and then that's going to be better for the specialty cafe owner.
Definitely. Don't get me started on the McCafe as well, where you can get a flat white for like 99p. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's in essence a loss leader at that point.
Sure.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Even for someone as big as that.
So we've just talked a little bit about how coffee is increasing in price and what businesses can do to make their customers feel like they're getting their money's worth. But coffee is also not just going up in price, it's also becoming more of a scarcity as well.
Yeah.
So what can we do as well, but also our customers, to reduce wastage, make sure their workflows are getting the most out of their coffee, maybe using less coffee per cup, but increasing their extractions, reducing milk wastage as well? What are some things that people could start thinking about?
That's a good question. And coffee is, well, so before I dive into that, because there's a lot to that, and I've already said it earlier, but there are coffees we can't get at the moment.
Yeah.
We know, we can see when they're coming in. It's not as if never again. One classic one, for example, is a coffee from Peru we buy, which is part of the Cafe Femenino, grown by women. Really, really good story behind that coffee. It's a lovely coffee as well.
Yeah.
Right now we don't have any, and I think we're literally using it up this week. Everything we've got in stock, that's not coming in for a couple of months. Like, nothing we can do about it. It's not just us that's run out. It's kind of like a shortage of that particular coffee. Yeah. That's not the only one. I'm just kind of picking one out.
Sure.
Sumatra is another classic scenario. So we, as a roaster, have to kind of think on our feet a little bit about that type of in that type of scenario, because we need to actually substitute that for something else. In a lot of instances, I'm not talking about every coffee. Realistically, it probably only applies to 5% of what we do, but it is still a thing. So I think it's worth talking about. So at the moment, I know we have done. And I know other roasters are too, actually substituting some coffees for other coffees just because there's a delay.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The next thing is more and more people are drinking coffee globally every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a huge coffee boom going on in China at the moment. There's obviously a lot of people in China. Like, that impacts... So that's going to impact the price ultimately, and the whole supply and demand, because only a certain amount of coffee is grown. Coffee technically only grows within 1,000 miles of the equator, so you've actually got quite. And if you look at that on a map, a lot of that's blue water. So so there's actually only quite a thin area of the world that can actually grow coffee. So only a finite amount can be grown. The more coffee is drunk, the more pressure is put on that crop, in essence. Now, this all sounds really gloomy and sort of we're going to run out of coffee.
Yeah.
We're not.
We'll get to the silver lining in a bit.
We're not going to, not in the foreseeable future. But it is just going to mean that coffee prices will they'll rise and fall. They always do. I mean, it's a globally traded commodity, so it will rise and fall. It's been going up and up and up. When peaked in mid-April, dropped a little bit, now back on up again, and it will continue to sort of duck and dive around. But ultimately, the trend seems to be just going up and up. I was looking at a graph just earlier this morning. Over the last 12 months, it has literally just steadily climbed.
Yeah.
In essence, so that's a little bit on demand and sort of global pressure on demand.
Yep.
In terms of what a cafe can do, I think there are things, as you said, as you pointed out. You can look at gram throws. Not a huge fan of that, in essence.
As in reducing the dose.
Reducing the dose.
Okay.
I mean, we would always suggest as a standard an 18 gram which shot, which is the SCA standard. That does work the best. You can look at bringing that down to 16. In some instances, it probably is only 14 to 16 anyway, if it's like an Italian style coffee. But if people are thinking I need to reduce my gram throw, I would actually suggest at the same time they look at their coffee, because it won't work for every coffee.
Okay.
But would I suggest that as a first port of call? Possibly not, to be honest. In terms of reducing costs in a cafe, there's a number of things you can do.
Yep.
Milk is an obvious one. So much milk is wasted in cafes, which is not good for the bottom line. It's not good for
the drainage.
For the drainage, it's not a sustainable thing.
Yeah.
There's no good reason why you should be wasting milk. Definitely don't condone refoaming milk that's already been foamed.
Yeah.
It's about managing how you manage your milk from that perspective.
So using the right jugs.
Using the right jugs,
jug
using the
sizes.
right tools.
Yeah.
Jug size is the first thing to consider. But if you've got the budget, I would strongly suggest any cafe looks at some sort of milk measuring dosing system.
Okay.
Because the on paper and in reality, milk wastage goes down so substantially, it'll pay for itself incredibly quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't have a lot of experience with them myself. I just know I've spoken to some big players in the market, even in recent days and weeks, who are putting the milk measuring systems throughout their cafes, and they've got hundreds of cafes, just because it won't even take a year to pay for itself in milk.
So that will make most sense for high volume chains, rather than sort of independents, maybe.
Well, I think we'll see it in the independent market as well, to be honest, because I'm talking in essence a dosing system, so you put a jug under a spout, and it will give you exactly the amount of milk you need to produce a 12-ounce latte, for example, or a flat white, or whatever it's preset to do. That really helps.
Yeah.
The amount of milk that just ends up down the drain.
Yeah.
Particularly if you've got high barista staff turnover, that is only going to go up, because people who are only there on a short-term contract they're just likely to care less about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically.
Yeah,
so I think that goes without saying. So definitely think that is a cost-saving exercise. There's a bit of a capital hit initially to buy the unit in the first instance, but definitely would say that ultimately it will be a cost-saving exercise.
Yeah.
Workflow, just being smarter. That's definitely something to look at, is your workflow on how from the point of order in a cafe to when that customer gets the drink, what is the workflow? How many people are having to interact with that product?
Yeah.
If you get your workflow sorted out and you minimise the amount of staff you need, just have fewer, higher trained staff, and make them customer orientated. That will ultimately save you money. I mean, that's a whole other rabbit warren.
That's another podcast topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Workflow and systems and tools and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Definitely. What are some? We'll wrap up here, I think. One last final question. What are some things that people can What are some positive things coming down the line in terms of the coffee industry, pricing, coffee robustness as well to climate change?
Yeah.
In terms of new origins or new varieties, what can people look out for, do you think?
Well, again, that's a big question. Now, what I would say actually, like as part of my answer to that question, is everything. A lot of what I've said so far has been fairly negative, to be honest. In terms of rising prices, can't get hold of certain stuff, etc., etc. Now, interestingly, it's generally been lower value crops, Robusta being one, and lower value Arabicas that have had the worst time over the last 12 months. Better quality coffees have had less of a bad time, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, okay. More resistant to fluctuations.
Absolutely. So prices have gone up on those as well. Sure. We can't deny that. But the gap, in essence, between a commodity coffee, a basic coffee, and a more specialty coffee has seemingly got smaller over the last 12 months, which I find really interesting. And ultimately, what that is going to mean for the cafe owner is that there's never been a better time to look at a better quality coffee, because the jump is less.
Right.
The jump in price is less now, and we've seen that with our own customers, who have made, just in the last 12 months, some pretty significant users of coffee. So significant customers have taken the leap of faith, if you like, from a sort of darker roasted Arabica, Robusta, 80-20 Italian style coffee flavored coffee, for want of a better way of describing it. They've taken the leap into something that actually is scoring on the SCA score, and is 100% Arabica, medium roast, still roasted for espresso, but they're now taking that into their cafes as something that they can advertise, and they're noticing a tangible difference in selling the second cup.
Yeah,
you get that. So they've got a story that they can promote for the first time in years. They've been selling coffee for years, but they've now got a story to promote, and it works.
Yeah.
So yes, they've taken a bit of a hit in terms of their kilo prices gone up by £3 or £4, £5 a kilo. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. But ultimately, it's working for them. So their top line is going up faster than their costs. So their bottom line is also going to increase.
I spoke to Marcus about that a couple of weeks ago, about paying more for a bit more of an expensive coffee, and what does that get you? And actually, the difference in price for the raw ingredients in a cup of coffee flavored coffee versus specialty coffee, it's pennies.
Absolutely.
And it gives you so much more. It gives you incredible flavor. It gives you the ability to bump up your price a little bit.
Absolutely.
It gives you a marketable story as well.
There's no bad side to it, literally, because for £1 increase on your coffee, your bag on a kilo of coffee, your £1 increase only equates to 2p per cup.
Yeah.
I mean, like, put your price up by 5p, and you're making more money.
Yeah.
You're making more money, and you're selling better coffee. Yeah. So you'll get better retention. People aren't going to quibble over 5p. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
100%.
And back to, what are some things coming down in the industry? I think we spoke recently about coffees coming out of Australia now as well. Some potentially new origins. New varieties seem to be coming out of the woodwork all the time. I can't remember what there's another sort of Arabica Robusta, and then there's something else.
Conelon.
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was. Anyway.
Sorry. I can't help you with that either.
But there are things to look forward to in terms of new, exciting things to talk about in your coffee story. Different varieties that are maybe more acclimatized to higher temperatures and poorer weather conditions.
Absolutely. So people are always researching different varietals, as sometimes known as, and that's only a good thing. We need to continually research and develop new, sturdier, hardier plants that will withstand climate change. Frost in Brazil, being a classic one I've already mentioned. If that's to become something that's going to continue, then Brazil needs a varietal that will actually weather those frosts. Otherwise, that will spell disaster. Doesn't need to, and I'm sure there will be development done to produce varietals that will actually withstand that. You mentioned Australia. I haven't tried any Australian coffee yet. I'm really keen to. But there's stuff going on all around the world, actually. Coffee, Chinese coffee now is a thing. Some of that's really good, actually. So that's a relatively newcomer to the market. There's new origins popping up here and there.
Plenty for us to be excited about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Max.
No problem. Thank you very much.